Hi, I'm Sandra. Welcome to my channel. Today's card is going to be a new home card, so I think that becomes fairly obvious when you see this. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to take a pencil, and what I'm going to do is just draw a little trace outline only around the bottom of the house portion. I'm doing a fairly light line. Okay, but I just want that particular portion there. I have a scrap of paper on the side here to test things. Very handy to do that. I keep a scrap aside. Yeah, that should be fine. It's not going to give me an overload of colour. So I'm going to literally just put a little bit of shade. I'm heading for the inside of that line. Just want to give a little bit of shade there, and I'll go across the top bit just here like that, and there we go. I know it looks weird at the moment, but believe me, it makes the difference. It's little things that make the difference between a so-so card and a nice one. I haven't bothered doing it at the top because those bits are going to be covered. Just to indicate a little bit of cloud and stuff, nothing, you know, over the top on this. Just a little bit of colour there. Pear tart, I think. I like pear tart because although it's green, it has a brightness to it without being gaudy. I don't tend to like very strong green colours if I can help it. Now on most of the pieces that I've cut out, most of them I have cut them out of white cardstock. The reason for that is I'm going to be doing different colours, and it's quicker just to cut it out of one colour and just to colour it the colours I need, rather than go for a piece of brown paper, a piece of blue paper, a piece of, you get the idea, don't you? So it's a bit quicker. Right, I'm going to be doing a little bit of stamping on here. It's really only kind of background stamping, but it's nice to do. And you can't do it when the card is all together. Believe me, I know, because I did this card earlier and it was rubbish. Because I didn't do things in the order I should have done. Because I didn't think about it and I didn't plan it. Right, these are the stamps I'm going to be using. All of this lot comes as a set from BD Craft. There's 15 pages of stamps in here, and it costs approximately £15. Quite a few different subjects. I did do a whole video on these. If you want to look at it, I will link it up above at the end of the video. But it's a good selection of stamps, and it was, you know, it's good value for money. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to put a few flowers in here. So I'm just going to get out a couple of stamp sets that I know I want. I'm going to be using that one for the tree. I am going to be using that one possibly for a sentiment, so I'll keep that one out. And there was a stamp here somewhere which has some tiny little birds on it. Actually, it might be, tiny little birds on there. That's where it was. That's where it was. Okay, so first off, let's put that away. Right, I'm going to stamp out this little flower. Sorry, little bird. It's only a little diddy thing. So we have a nice little birdie here. And I'm going to put him up there. I think he's just quite sweet. I'll put him up there. Right. So. I want to do some trees, so it's important that I get the bird stamp first, because otherwise it will get lost and I won't be able to stamp it. So that's why I've done that one first. And I will at some point get a pen and put an eye in, because it doesn't have an eye in there, which is going to annoy me. Just put an eye in. That makes all the difference. A little bit of dark grey, oh sorry, pale grey on the belly, and right, now as it happens, it's got a little flower grass type stamp there, so I'm going to use this one a few times as well. Okay, just a few little flowers. I'm really not that bothered about how that stamps out, because I'm going to be adding some colouring to it. So I will do that with some other pens. I'm just going to get some small pens to do some colouring in. I'm just going to put in a little bit of colour. I'm not even fussing about going right to the edges of the lines. I'm sorry if you can hear screaming in the background. It's not my children. Well, my children are grown up, and they're not in the same country for a start, but there are some people here who have some very noisy children. A bit too dark, I think. And yes, neighbours' children make a lot of noise sometimes. There we go, that does for that. And then I can add a few squiggles for the grass. I've got my tree stamp on here, and I am going to go in with a light colour first of all. I'm only going to be putting the ink on the branches and leaves. The trunk is going to be left completely out of it. And I'm going to put some growth behind the house. So the next thing I want to do with this is to put the acetate in place. I have it here. Now, a word of caution: if you have some dusty acetate and you're thinking of using a lint roller to take the dust off it, don't bother. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. It was an absolute disaster. It made a right mess of the acetate. So no, you can't use it for that. I thought, got some dust on my acetate, that'll take it off. All it did was leave a whole load of sticky residue, and it was terrible. So there we go, you can learn from my mistake. And there we go. I cut my acetate slightly smaller than the size of my card front. So I have some other things to put on here. It's not very often I use the chunky end of an alcohol marker. And then what I do is I use one of these nail tools, which is designed for dotting, to just dot my glue on the back of my frame. Once it's dotted, if you need to, you can spread it with the same tool just by going over it like that. We can just leave it in dots. Put the door over the top, like so. Ooh, shouldn't have done that, should I? You can take off any excess with the same dotting tool, and I can use the same glue because it's a very tacky glue and it will stick onto plastic, so I can use some more of that on the back there. So as you stick it onto my acetate, and it's going to go just there. And I've also got some little bits of yellow cellophane. Now I cut out more of these than I needed because, well, I know what it's like. They're little, they're inclined to fly all over the place, and you lose one, you've got to scout around on the floor trying to find it. So I've cut out a couple of extra bits, just so I don't have to recut. And the first one I have is the round window. So I've cut this from Arteza permanent vinyl, and I want to put my window up above my door. It shouldn't create a problem if any of it does leak. So I can get rid of the odd bit from the outside there. But I said anything that leaks into the centre part of it should actually be okay. Now I've got the same thing to do with the square pieces. I've put the rest of my windows on. Now it was a bit of a difficult thing to do because the cellophane wants to be static. So as soon as you put a vinyl frame anywhere near it, it tends to want to go, I'll stick to it. Which can be a bit of a pain. So what I would suggest is that you use the vinyl frames if you're going to do it, or cut them out of card if you want to do it that way. But if you're going to want to colour the windows, I suggest you just use an alcohol marker to colour on the acetate, and that'll be fine. So I've put the boards up onto the roof as well, and I did that using a piece of transfer tape. It's easy enough to transfer the vinyl to that. I didn't quite get it centered, but it doesn't matter because there is this decor piece which is going to go over the top of that. This bit I want to be kind of a roof colour. I'm just going to throw that aside because I know it's got bits of glue on it. Very, very deep red. There we are. There we go, so that's those coloured in. Back to this, and I need another blob of glue. See, I'm not using very much glue, so it's quite economical. And then I can put this trim over that. There we go. I just want to colour this with a brown marker. Right, just remembered I'm going to have to blank off that piece there because I need to put some foam behind that. I don't want the shakers going up into the roof. So I'm going to get a piece of card and just blank that off. I can put my foam tape in place. And now of course I need my shaker bits in there. And then I need to put my card on top, remembering that this piece goes towards the bottom. I'm going to do this off camera because I know what will happen if I don't. I'll end up messing it up. Going to add a few white highlights with a white pen. I don't mind if it looks slightly scratchy because it tends to be more realistic looking. So I'm doing very light broken lines down the right hand side of these railings. And I've added a stamp from the set there, Home Sweet Home, with a little bird on top again, which came out of that stamp set there. So that is almost it. There I have all the nice shaker elements there. If you've got a light frame around it, it kind of loses it a bit, but a dark frame on this particular colour scheme would work quite well. So there we go, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon.